And now I have a most special and unique opportunity to introduce the Honorable Joe Tonahill. Joe Tonahill and Marion Jones, we're so glad you're with us. Joe Tonahill stands for everything that the law should be about. 6 children that he reared, active member of his church, born into meager circumstance. Like all great men, Walter graduated from Port Arthur High School, went to the University of Texas, later went to Washington College of Law. In 1941, he was admitted to the State Bar of Texas. He's actively practiced before the Eastern, Southern, Western, and Northern United District Court bars. He's a member of the U.S. Court of Appeals Bar 5th Circuit and the U.S. Supreme Court Bar. Honorary life member and past state vice commander of the American Legion. Served honorably in the U.S. Navy in the South Pacific, World War II. He served in the 3rd, 5th, and 7th Fleets in the Pacific. He's a life member of the UTX Students Association, life member and sustaining member of the Texas Bar Foundation. He's a member of the American Trial Lawyers Association and former governor thereof for Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, and Florida from 1955 and 1956. Sustaining member since 1946, governor 1992 to 1995, an honorary life member of the American Trial Lawyers. He's a member of ABOTA, the American Board of Trial Advocacy. He was the co-founder and charter member of the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. He was co-founder of this organization. It was his ideas that led to the formation. Co-founder and past president of the International Academy of Trial Lawyers. He was co-founder and former director of the International Society of Barristers. Past president of the First Judicial District Bar Association, 1951. It's the first judicial district. That's Tonahill country. The second is too, over there behind the pine curtain, Joe. Director of the State Bar of Texas, chairman of the Tort and Compensation Section of the State Bar of Texas, lecturer at the University of Texas, City Attorney Jasper, chairman of its largest bank, Chief Texas Counsel in the defense of Jack Ruby, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. That trial was selected by the Associated Press and the UPI as the top news story for 1964. The case was reversed by Joe Tonahill for Jack Ruby to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. And I remember when you were trying that case, Bill Edwards says, that fellow's got a chance to get off because he's got Joe Tonahill as his lawyer. And ultimately, you did get him off. The case of Travelers Insurance Company versus Rowan, the first traumatic cancer case ever affirmed on appeal. Miller versus Perimeter, the largest wrongful death verdict in the world affirmed at that time. That was 1950. 2,000 Men of Achievement, voted by the London Academy of Success, Joe Tonahill. War Horse Award. Now, these are the type of things Joe's proud of. A true war horse. The War Horse Award of the Southern Trial Lawyers Association in America. He was selected to the Best Lawyers of America, 1989. Champion of Justice Award, Stalwarts of American Trial Lawyers Association. The Blackstone Award. Joe, I want to read to you what the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals in the case of Jack Rubenstein, also known as Jack Ruby, as appellant versus the state of Texas. And I invite, if anybody wants to make a note of this, that's 407 Southwest 2nd, 793. I'd suggest that you read it. First, the court stated, in the brief of the friends of the court, and during his oral argument at the bar before this court, when he appeared under the designation of this court as friend of the court, trial counsel Tonahill ably urged and pointed out this basic principle of our jurisprudence, which this court has consistently followed. And finally, this is a court saying this about Joe. This court has been furnished with many outstanding briefs and many oral arguments that were made by a battery of very able lawyers on both sides. This writer has been especially impressed with the conduct of the Honorable Joe Tonahill. Through much stress and strain, misunderstanding among client and appellant's relatives, he has exemplified the highest standards of the legal profession, remained true to his duty, and done an outstanding job in briefing and presenting this case before this court. And as you know, the court reversed Jack Ruby, his conviction, based on Joe's argument. Lastly, Joe Tonahill, for those that know him, you love him. He is a true-to-life Atticus Finch. He is truly a living legend. The giant from East Texas, the greatest trial lawyer that I've ever known, and I think that's ever lived. I hand you, or at least I present to you, the one, the only, Joe Tonahill.
George, my mother might not have believed most of what you said, but she sure would have loved it. Tell you what, I wish I could get right down there with each and every one of you and show you and tell you and explain to you how much I love all of you, how much you've done for me and what you're doing for me now and have done so much in the past. Great friends, great people, great lawyers, great ladies. Just the greatest thing in the world that could happen to a man is to be among you all and to have been your leader. I'm so happy and so thrilled about it. I have one thing I want to observe, though, and that is that at this stage in life, I see so few of you out there that I feel that I should show deference to. But if I was as young and gay and handsome as my old friend Bob Gibbons, past president of the American Trial Lawyers, I wouldn't mind that so much at all. The thing that we've got to do more about than anything else, I think, is reinvent the word change in our legal government that is controlling so many activities that have so much critical influence on our daily lives. Change has got to be our hallmark, and we have got to do an awful lot about it. As you know, the old geology building at the University of Texas has the words, "O Earth, what changes hast thou seen?" And the main building below the tower says, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." And on the old archives building in Washington City are the words, "The past is prologue." And Honorable Wendell Holmes told us a long time ago that the path of the law is experience. Now, we know a lot about all that, and we're going to have to start doing an awful lot about these changes that need to be made. Because out of the past and into the future come and go the children of men, and so it is with us and our future. You wonder and you ask, why are we like what we are? Why are we plaintiff lawyers? Why are we taking the side of the people? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and they all boil down to the same thing, likely, but we all come at it from a different direction. Back at the law school, we had what was called the Muzzy Law Congress, which was a debating society, and I became active in it. And on one of those debates, we had the law clerk from Justice Brandeis as the judge. Well, when the debates were finished, this young man and myself went up the street a couple of blocks and had a couple of beers and talked pretty seriously about life and the future and so forth. And I asked him, I said, do you think it would be possible for me to meet Judge Brandeis? He said, well, that's a pretty tall order, but I'll work on it and get back to you. In 30 days, he called me. Said, I got it all worked out, and he gave me specific instructions where and when to be and be promptly and so forth. So I was there, and he ushered me into the judge's chambers, and the judge he introduced me, said, this young man is a second-year law man and wanted to meet you, Judge. And the judge crossed his arms like that. So, young man, I've heard of the corporation lawyer, but I've never heard of the people's lawyer. Now, what kind of a lawyer will you make? I took a deep breath. I said, Judge Brandeis, I'm poor, and those corporations would never hire me. So if the people will have me, I'll go along with the people. I said, well, and he said, and I think they will, and I think you will. Good day and good luck, young man. I don't know what that did to me, but it did something to me. And there was another instance on my part of all this, and why I became what I did in the law, my philosophy, and it sort of came out of a case called Chambers versus Florida, Judge Black's eloquent opinion. And in that opinion, I'll give you briefly what he said. He said, the testimony of centuries in governments of various kinds over populations of different races and beliefs stood as proof that physical and mental torture and coercion brought about the tragically unjust sacrifices of some who were the noblest and most useful of the generations. The rack, the thumbscrew, the wheel, solitary confinement, protracted questioning and cross-questioning, and other ingenious forms of entrapment of the helpless or unpopular had left their wake of mutilated bodies and shattered minds along the way to the cross, the guillotine, the stake, and the hangman's noose. And they who have suffered most from secret and dictatorial proceedings have almost always been the poor, the ignorant, the numerically weak, the friendless, and the powerless. That was in 1940 when I read those words. And coupled with that experience with Judge Brandeis, I think my course along the way was pretty well charted. It has been that way ever since. And I have every reason in the world to believe that you great trial men and ladies will likely feel the same way somewhere back in your mind, down in your hearts and in your nature. But as I say, we all come at this differently. Now, back in the beginning, Mar Maverick himself sent out postcards to the stalwart trial lawyers of Texas to meet with us in Fort Worth, 1949, form an organization to do something about the problems we were having. Between 30 and 40 of the stalwarts were there. I nominated 5 directors: Albert Jones of Houston, Claude Carter of Dallas, John Watts of Odessa, Franklin Jones of Marshall, and Claude, get his name, from Harlingen. We elected Guy Carter. Albert Jones became president of the state bar. He was vice president. And then next year we elected John Watts. I don't know if many of you knew John Watts. I knew him and knew him so well. He did something for the bar that nobody else could do, and they weren't doing at that time. He created the third-party litigation in the gas field and oil fields in Odessa. We didn't know what third-party litigation was. We knew what the compact was and collision cases, fender benders, but Watts started the third-party practice. And he was the strongest, one of the most able leaders, I think, of any organization I've ever had anything to do with. He said, he started us with the right theme, right philosophy. He said, we can do things in this organization that no other organization can do. We can elect congressmen, judges, governors, and the President of the United States. If we just put our money and our time and our talent and our energy and feelings into it. And he kept reminding us of that from time to time to time. We can elect presidents. That was John's feeling about it, John's ideas. And he did something for the bar and the people when he created a third-party liability. And we owe him a whole lot. But back there, as to why we met in Fort Worth to do something about the horrible situation. Why did we do that? We were the red light district in the bar at that time. We were second-class citizens. We had no influence in the courts, none in politics, and none in the press. The insurance company had all the ink, and they knew how to use it. And they worked us over, and they worked us over. It's going to be impossible for you to believe and understand what went on back there in those days when we were the red light district. These defense counsel would accuse our clients of being frauds, cheats, perjurers. Their lawyers would suborn perjury, ought to be disbarred. That was normal day fare in jury arguments with the defense. And you know, it got to be, with some of us, enough is enough. And that's why we met in Fort Worth in 1949 to start something and start doing something about it. And we have, and we did, and look at you here now. Look what you're doing and have done. You're great leaders, great presidents, great organization. There's great people like Tommy Townsend and his staff. Look what's going on now with us. So we did do something, and we've been doing something ever since. But are we doing enough, and have we done enough? Can we do enough? Can we do more? We've got to. That was a powerful force that we got hit with. And I know, I feel that, and definitely, that we have hit back about as hard as you can hit back. And we've gotten respectability now, and we're no longer the second-class citizen. We're no longer the red light district. After a while, we decided, well, we've got to do something about this organization to get it up on top and build it and get some respect around the state. So we picked out a judge. Seemed to me like he was from Dallas, and that was 50 years ago. But wherever it was, he was very irresponsible in the way he handled his court. He granted new trials, cut verdicts, and was judicially arrogant as they come with plaintiff lawyers. Well, we decided to take him out if we could. So we organized very heavily. We got the records on all of his adverse decisions and judgments and the new trials and reduction of verdicts and summary judgments. And we passed them out, and we all got organized, and we sent these people, clients and what have you, into the barber shops to discuss this man's horrible justice. And it went all over the state, all over the district that he was in, and we took him out. And it spread like a prairie fire. And the people in Texas knew it, office holders knew it, other judges knew it, members of the legislature knew about it, members of the courts of appeal knew about it, the Supreme Court knew about it, the Court of Criminal Appeals knew what we had accomplished. And at our next meeting in San Antonio, you talk about a sellout. We had these judges and office holders calling in and begging for seating arrangements. They wanted to be there with us. And you had to get there early because if you didn't, the defense crowd had already gotten there. And they took over the seats as bad as they could. And that went on. And we were on the way after that. When we took that judge out, they found out that we meant business, and our membership started to grow, and we became more dignified. We changed the color of those lights a little bit to getting a little bit of shade of green coming in there. And it really worked. And I just wish every one of you could have been there for that first meeting after that, and to see the response and the sudden change that came about in the opinion of these people and the feelings that they had for us, now sudden overnight rebirth. And from then on, it was a little bit easier. So we decided we had a lot to do. We had to get a big membership, so we started crisscrossing the state with lawyers and setting up seminars and programs on medical legal matters and getting new members and so forth, and it kept going and going. And we have grown, we have gotten bigger, we've gotten stronger, gotten abler, and we've gotten better. And the leadership that this organization has spawned is just amazing, how wonderful you men and women are. And I hate to say this, but we lost 14 past presidents, good men, good people. And we're down to 36 survivors alive. And Frank Branson will tell you that the scenery of the presidential temper is getting a whole lot better. Isn't that right? But we weren't through with that judge. We had other things to do. And when Bob Bullock went into the legislature, he had a case in Dallas, and he asked me to help him with it, and we went into Dallas, went to selecting a jury. We struck 6 insurance adjusters. We had to take 7. And you wonder why, and I just didn't understand that. I asked the clerk, what in the name of God is going on? Where do you get these jurors? He said, don't you know? I said, no. He said, well, the judge, this is where you came from, too. The judge appoints these 3 commissioners, jury commissioners. And they get together and they choose who the jury is going to be. And in this instance, they brought lists in before they ever met. And I said, you mean that? Yes. So the jury commissioners were hand-picking the jurors, and that was going on all over Texas. And I had wondered about some of the cases that had been lost in Jasper and Beaumont and Lufkin. And I got to thinking about it, and I said, my God Almighty, we can't live with this. And we didn't. And the first piece of legislation that we got through of any consequence was the jury wheel bill. That was quite a while after that. Now, I imagine most of the lawyers here have never tried a case except under the jury wheel, which is a perfect system. I mean, you get a fair sampling of the entire community. Not the best, not the worst, not the middle ground, but the fair sampling of everybody. You got that now. And the lawyers that have grown up with the jury wheel can't possibly understand what it would be like back in those days, those sickening days, to have those hand-picked jurors thrust down your throat. The foremen, superintendents, owners of businesses, and they all came. They didn't ask to get off. They were instructed not to get off. That went on and on. But now you've got the jury wheel bill. And then what else did we do? Comparative fault, comparative negligence. You talk about something that was fought and fought hard. It took us 24 years to get that. And then we got our discovery things, interrogatories, motion for discovery, that and request for admissions of fact. We got that. And then we got sanctions. And we're working and working on, still working, and you folks are doing it, you're going to get it done. And we're working hard, we're going to continue to work. Now, I'm afraid I've talked too long, and I ought to have done by now, but I just want you to know that in your hands is where the power is. And if you'll use it and keep on using it, we're going to get a new constituency on the Supreme Court of Texas. We got to. We don't, the insurance companies don't need no fault. They've got it right there. And every week that goes by, if you'll read their opinion, you'll see that they have overruled one wonderful good decision after another, just wiping it all away. And something's got to give. And it's up to us to bring it about. Well, it's wonderful being here with you, and I feel so deep down grateful for the honor and privilege of having served this organization and been a part of it the last 50 years. And I appreciate so much being asked to stand up here and speak to you all. There's 1,000 things and 1,000 hours to be talked about with you, and I could do it. And I would if I could, and y'all could stand it. But it's wonderful, and I want to thank you from my heart for having me, and glad to be with you.